I stated an objection. Of course, I knew I wasn't manipulating, and I could have not stated it. And I had a very powerful testimonial, so she diffused the objection, rather than me having to diffuse it. Right? And I let her talk because she was. I wouldn't have interrupted. And that's and so once you start being aware of these things, once you start being aware of the dynamics of communication and how the mind works and how the mind understands things, you start then you start using them to their potential, basically. And going back here to Simenon, he said, like, start with why, and then what, and then the how. And what he actually failed to mention, and I've read a lot of things he wrote, and I've watched a lot of his presentations, he never says, he never talked about context. Right? Imagine I sit here, and I start with a story, and for the next 45 minutes, I'm still talking into that story, and you have no idea where I'm getting at. You have no idea why I'm telling you all this. I'm starting with the why. I'm starting with why I'm doing whatever it is that I haven't told you yet. Right? And this is very important because, yes, you're starting with why. Although before, I didn't use the word but, did you notice? Because if I say yes, you're starting with why, but, that means you're not starting with why. Yes, you're starting with why, although at the same time, okay, when you say Apple, okay, I didn't start by telling you we sell computers, although you know that we do. So you know what I'm talking about. Though you start communicating with the why. And that's why in a lot of times the titles that you use for your articles, for your posts, for your letters, the articles are extremely important because they allow you to tell what you're talking about extremely briefly. And when the people start reading, they start reading about the why. And they can make the link. They're not aware of it. They make the link. They're reading and they're being convinced you're connecting with them because it's a why, and they share the reasoning. And once you get to the message or the call to action and all this, it's synonymous with what they're expecting to hear, which is also goes back to setting the right expectations. And so basically this is what we do here. Professionals, this third and final saloon is for you. We didn't say why. We said what we're talking about. Okay? We started talking with the why. Why are we doing the TEDxBeirut Saloon? Because we inspire to bring the local TED community together. Okay? And now this is, it's like a cycle. You know a roller coaster ride? And so it's a cycle. If I want to draw it in my head, it would look something like this. So it goes like this, and then it starts going up, and then it starts going up and going up. So I start with the what, and then I say a brief why, and then I remind them what I want them to do at the end. And then I go on talking about the why, because if they're convinced here, sure. If they're not, then I want to tell them why they should be in that event. And that's why I tell them that it's a gathering of professionals and executives, and they need to inspire their colleagues.
How many times can you think you're still convincing before losing your main audience? And if you need to convince at several stages, but how long do you think you can stick to convincing before you
as long as you can.
And how many times do you need to put flicker?
It's not the number of times.
But I mean,
yeah, it's a great question.
You have to know. I don't know. I think that at some point we're aware that we can't get everyone, and there are some people who might be interested, but maybe not through this media they're going to be convinced.
Of course.
Yeah, maybe a friend will convince them, and that will be the testimonial they need. Because sometimes I wonder when we try to reinforce our message so strongly that the people who already do believe, they're like, stop, I get it.
Of course.
Don't talk to me like I don't get it. I get it.
Right.
And I wonder, because it's always an interesting question for me. How much do we need to prove, and how much is like?
That's why that's an advantage in social media, because you don't have a person in front of you who's talking and who's not shutting up. I don't mean you. You have a reader with a screen. You have a reader with a screen and a mouse. If I come to here and I'm convinced, I'm going to click and go register. Okay, I might take a glimpse and I'm like, when, where, what, right? So I know exactly what I'm registering for. If I'm not convinced, but I'm appealed, so I conveyed the message, I made the association, I made the connection, right? Then they will keep on reading. If they reach a point where they're still not convinced, then they're not the audience that I want in that event, right? And that's fine, because, and like a lot of you have said, we're not trying to get everyone into the event. We want to get the people who already want to be there. All that we want to do is we want them to be aware that that's where they want to be. It's like you have a feeling inside, you know what it is, and then you get an email and you're reading the email and you can't link the email to what you're feeling inside, right? Let's say, I don't know, who's the most bored here? You. What's your name? What's your name?
Mario.
Mario. What's your favorite hobby?
Lots of stuff, nothing in particular.
Okay, pick one.
Driving.
Driving. Driving fast or just
Fast.
driving?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm having an event, I'm organizing an event for people to be able to drive using whichever car they would like in a very safe environment that doesn't harm them or their friends. And I send you an invitation by email, and by the end of the email, you don't get that it's about driving. Right? And this is what we're talking about. He wants to drive, he has a passion to drive, and I'm creating an event that he would love to be in. But I write it in a way that he doesn't get it, or he doesn't connect to it. He can't make a link that that's a place he wants to be in. And this is why we're creating a salon that these people want to be in. And we're doing all of these for them to know that.
Can I?
Yes.
Part of what Jumana was saying, I think, I understand your point with this email for this event.
Yeah.
But I think when you look at the larger community, you have to make sure, and I think maybe this is part of what, this is what I was hearing anyway. If your focus is certainly going to be on attracting people to the event, but you also have to make sure that you're nurturing the community that you've already built and continue to engage them as well. And this is sort of what came to me when you were talking about the emails and stuff, because the emails, and this is specifically, I mean, I'm talking specifically to TEDxBeirut, but it could apply to any community basically, because you're already signed up, you're already convinced, you get the emails, maybe you're not here for this event or whatever, okay fine, you ignore it, that's fine. But I think sometimes some initiatives like this, they focus so much on getting the new people that they forget about the ones who are already there, and you can I think the connecting part is actually easier than the engage or the conveying part, and I think it's convey, but it's also engage, and it's again this cycle that you have to maintain. It's something that you have to, I think, from my worldview or whatever of social media, I think there's something that makes the cycle complete, which is a reward. There's something at the end of each cycle, or sort of in between the end of a cycle and the beginning of another cycle, that is an affirmation, an expression of appreciation, a report back, a reward of some sort, something that affirms your participation in this, and it's not just focused on the subject of the event, the organizer, and not just events. I'm just using that as an example, but I have felt lost in some. You know, you get excited, you get revved up, you're ready to participate, and then, okay, they have me in the bag so they forget about me.
Totally. Totally.
And I'm not talking about TEDxBeirut, just because you're in front of me.
Totally. Yeah, this is, you need to create continuity, basically, in a way, in everything that you do. What else? What time is it?
I think so, yeah, we have to go, yes.
I have to go.
But not for want of, not because we want to go.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you. I hope you enjoyed it so far. Was it beneficial?
Yes. Yeah. It's always nice to see someone.
Is what the actual what is, so all the what. And then if the audience cares, then go into the how. Or direct them to some place where they can find out what the how is. Okay. And like I said, the brief what could just be in the title. It could be in an image. If I have an image of a computer, I don't need to say that I'm selling computers. It could be in a Twitter feed, it could be anywhere. So look around the context of where you're writing and make sure that people are getting what you're talking about, not necessarily in words. Okay. Now, and then Hala talked a bit about how she noticed that there's a loop, how it closes. That's what I call a sandwich effect, in a way. And I think this brings me back to this slide. Okay. So I'll explain psychologically what happens in a bit. But this is an example of a sandwich effect. And just like stating the audience is as simple as putting the word there, right? Stating the problem is as simple as just saying what it is. The solution is just saying that that's not the problem, right? Creating a sandwich is also that simple, and when you try to complicate it, it fails. The key to creating a sandwich is to make sure that you use the same word. Okay? So, what does mass media and Prozac have in common? Okay, of course, the note explains what they have in common. This is, I can talk about this later on, about some things that you could do to create captivating titles, in a way. So what this does is it triggers curiosity, because it puts two seemingly unrelated things, and it suggests that there's a relationship between them. And it's not obvious for you to guess it and move on, so you have to read to figure out what that is. Okay? The sandwich happens is that in all of the note, there's no mention of Prozac. Okay? But it builds up the context, the context. It covers the objections. It conveys the message. And then at the end, it just said, and that's why mass media is such a success, we welcome it unknowingly as the best way to treat the symptoms, just like Prozac. So I said all this and I didn't tell you why it's important to sandwich. It's not, I'm not saying do it all the time in all of your article. It's just one thing that you could do. Psychologically, why it works is because when I start with a title, and I'm running you through a lot of different points, so I'm moving from one, so there's a tree, and the whole note is this tree. But through this tree, I need to go through this branch and explain something. And I come back to the tree and I go through this branch. By the time I reach the end, you had almost stopped thinking about the beginning of the tree. And psychologically what happens is, when I say Prozac, this is about associations. The way the subconscious mind works is that if I give you a word, you will remember one of two things. Either the most recent event where this word took place or triggered, or the most emotionally charged event. So, let me see. Party. What image did this bring up? Party. Don't think about it, just remember the image, the first image that came up.
I don't know, a party. A bunch of people.
When? No, a specific image. What did you see? A specific image, not what it means.
A bunch of people partying and
was it something that?
drinking and,
Was it something general, or something that you were? So were you there?
from a movie or something.
When?
I don't know.
How long ago? تقريبا.